Welcome to Speak as One. I'm Julie Coriath. We are at Texas State University here today, and we're talking with Nate Martin. Hi, Nate.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I've looked up some of your stuff on Instagram, and you're very outspoken about mental health. What started that?
It's just always been a big deal to me, something I've struggled with a lot, especially in high school. And I really had a good leader back home that kind of opened me up to it, talked about it a lot. So
A good leader, like a coach, or?
he worked in our church back home, and he
Okay.
kind of talked about the importance of it and how I can use my platform to share it.
Okay, so where did you grow up?
I grew up in Houston, Texas, like in the middle of like Cypress and Klein area.
Nice. And were you always, wanting to play basketball? Is that something that you were always interested in?
Yeah, I grew up wanting to play since I was a little kid.
And whenever you were growing up, did you ever experience mental health or within you or your family? Is it something that you knew about?
I didn't really know about it much until high school. I was struggling with it, but I didn't know what it was, and then kind of heard more about it like my sophomore year.
And what, so like when I was growing up, we didn't hear about it at all. And I knew I was struggling with some things too when I was younger, but we never heard about it. And I think maybe your generation's a little bit different, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that you hear about it more. And so was it just hearing through people talking about anxiety and things like that you heard about mental health, or was it through books or your parents, or how did that come about?
I think it was really through my mom. She has struggled with it too, and she kind of talked to me a lot about it. Just she saw what I was going through and kind of opened up to me about it. So.
And so when you started playing, and I think this might be good also for other athletes to understand, and even younger athletes, when you started playing basketball, is it something you always felt really confident in? Or was it something that you had to learn to, is it something that you always felt really confident in? Or do you feel like you started to get anxiety more because of it?
I think it definitely caused a lot of anxiety, just like injuries, bad performances, and I'm really a perfectionist, which is kind of bad when you play a sport, because right when you mess up, you like beat yourself up on it. So.
Yeah, you beat yourself up. Yeah. What does that look like? Can you tell us?
Just really, the main thing is just like negative self-talk, and then like just kind of like the thought that I'm not good enough or whatever, and then just kind of like shutting down to other people like after the game, like kind of letting it affect other areas of my life.
Was there any other things in your life that were going on that also caused this, or was it more just the perfectionist inside of you and the self-talk?
It was mainly the perfectionist, and then I had a few pretty big injuries and surgeries like all 4 years of high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What were those?
I had a Jones fracture in my foot, so I had surgery on that, and then broke my other ankle, and then re-broke that Jones fracture after I broke my ankle, and then broke my wrist, like 4 years.
That is a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Was it over the course of freshman through senior year?
Yeah.
Wow. And you were still able to kind of come out of that and play? That's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, it seems to me that sometimes those injuries too, like along with the pressure of the game, can cause that self-talk to even get worse, because it's nothing that you wanted. But when you're sitting there and you can't play and you can't perform at something you love, that's got to be challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you handle that when you were going through those injuries and not playing?
I think I really just had to focus on like something outside of basketball. Like, so for me, I took up just like reading. I took up a lot of reading and just like trying to get my mind off of basketball and focus on other ways I could grow myself.
Yeah. And whenever you would read things, what do you like to read? Do you read self-help books, or do you read, just for pleasure?
I read self-help books. I like reading for pleasure a lot too. It's kind of just depends.
Depends. Yeah. What I'd love to know, when you were, really young, when you played, was it just more for fun, or did you always have this intensity around it and that perfection, like when you were, 5 or 6 or whenever you started playing?
I think the perfection intensity kind of started like in middle school, when I realized that I could maybe have a chance to play in college. Like, I remember just watching college basketball, and I was like pretty good at my age too, and I was like, I really want to do this one day. And then that kind of like took over and just kind of led to that perfection intensity thing.
Were you in select basketball as well as playing for junior high and high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty rigorous schedule, huh?
It's a lot.
And it's year round, right?
Yeah, so school ball was like in the winter, fall, and then select was in like spring, summer. So.
Did you ever play other sports?
I played baseball up until sophomore year of high school, and then played football up until middle school.
Middle school, yeah. And then whenever you went to high school, you realized I got to focus on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are here to try to understand more about college athletes. And that is because I've been hearing so many statistics nowadays about college athletes and how mental health can really affect them. I think even more so maybe than in the past, or we just didn't hear about it as much. And so I'm just trying to understand a little bit more. Is it because there's so many different pressures now? Or, just if you could give us that insight to what it's really like.
I think for me, it's kind of just like, there's a few things. I think it's just all the pressure, just like wanting to perform for yourself, wanting to help your teammates, your coaches, like please them, and then just like not wanting to let the school down, so that pressure. And then also just like the pressure of balancing school and sport, especially once you're in season, like all the travel, you'll be gone for a week and a half, and then have to catch up on that schoolwork, which like that's just ends up being very stressful. Then dealing with injuries too, just the demands of your coaches, like extracurricular stuff you have to do. It all adds up pretty quick.
Yeah, I bet. And have you had injuries since you've been at Texas State? Because you're a junior now, right?
Yeah, so I've had 2 concussions but no breaks, so just 2 concussions. But
Did those take you out long?
Yeah, I was out for 2 weeks the first one, and then like 3 weeks the second one.
Okay. Yeah, so having to manage that schedule, it I'm sure doesn't allow for a lot of extra sleep and rest. It doesn't sound like, And I think even this year y'all had to come back on Christmas night. Is that correct?
Yeah, Christmas night.
Yeah. And does it leave you to have time for extracurricular activities to give yourself a mental health break?
I think for me, I have to really like diligently like cut out time for myself. But I think like my freshman year, I struggle with not cutting out time for myself, so I just get drowned in everything. But once I learned to like give myself like at least 20 minutes a day just to decompress, like read something, pray, go on a walk or something, that really helped.
Now, are you good about detaching from your phone?
Yeah, I've got a lot better with it this year. It was something I tried to work on because I wasn't that good at it. But
Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle for all of us. But they really, they say if you can even just put it away for a little bit, it's so helpful. How was the transition of going from high school, and being at home with your family, and then now you transition into college? I mean, of course, this was a few years ago, but was that freshman year challenging for you?
It was very challenging because I also came in during COVID when everything was shut down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like, you couldn't meet anybody, like you couldn't do anything. It was just like me, my roommate, my team. And it got kind of lonely sometimes because even like we couldn't all go and hang out somewhere after practice or something. So that was pretty tough. Going like in high school, I had a really good group of friends that I loved, and then going to school, it was like trying to find myself with not much to do.
Yeah, do you think community is important for mental health?
Yeah, community has always been a huge thing for me. Just having 1 or 2 friends that I can like really trust with whatever, and like they'll lead me in the right direction.
And that first year, it was kind of hard to create that new bond because you didn't know any of the guys. Yeah. Were you calling your friends from back home quite a bit?
Yeah, we would always keep in touch, and then I would go home on weekends, like just try to hang on to them as long as I could,
And during COVID, I'm sure there were a lot of games that got canceled last minute, and so you're, getting ready for this game, and you're getting so excited that you finally get to go play, and then would games get canceled?
Yeah, they would get canceled up until like the last minute, like you said, just day of, like, oh, other team has COVID, game's not happening anymore.
How did y'all handle that?
I think just like we just knew that we had to be ready for anything, like because some games, like you said, would be canceled, and then so all the preparation you had for that team just goes out the window. So you got to go play the next team. That game could get canceled, so it's just like always being on your toes, really.
Did that cause you, do you feel like that time during COVID that it caused you to have more anxiety or struggle with mental health at all anymore?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely struggle with a lot more mental health, just kind of because I kind of like isolated myself, like not even purposely, but it just kind of happened just because everyone was inside, shut down. Like I didn't want to get COVID and then be the reason for a game cancellation, like so I didn't do anything. But I think it definitely led to like a pretty dark place at times.
Yeah. How would you, along with reaching out to friends, did you reach out to family or, I know the coaches here, from what I understand, they try to be pretty supportive of that and they try to interact with you guys, but they can't even really do that during that time.
Yeah, right.
So that had to have been so challenging. Yeah. Well, so then was it your sophomore year then things started to open up a little bit more? Yeah. Did you feel like you were able to come out of that dark place because you started to create a community here?
Definitely, yeah. I met a couple kids that they play football here. Met them just like a church event thing, and we all got really close and like helped kind of like establish that community. So,
yeah. As you went into your sophomore year and y'all were playing more, along with establishing the community, did you feel like the fact that you were able to play and games became more consistent, that also became helpful?
Yeah, it helped a lot.
But then did the stress of school and things get more intense as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Because one thing about COVID is everything was just online. So I'm just, and from what I understand and just my own kids, it's, there was school, but it wasn't the same as it was before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Freshman year was just like go to Zoom, online Zoom. You don't even have to go that really. And then like, so it was just all basketball really, like not even school. Then sophomore year was like, you gotta go in person, you gotta, all that fun stuff.
Do you, do you see in just with your everyday friends, are most of your friends are in sports or do you have friends outside of sports?
Most of mine are in sports, yeah.
And so you really understand the struggles from not only your perspective, but their perspective as well. Do you see that a lot of your teammates struggle in some ways?
Yeah, I see everyone struggles with something really. It's like, it's obviously different for every person, but there's always something that somebody's going through, even if they like cover it up a little bit or try to.
Yeah. Can you notice when you think of one of your teammates is trying to cover it up? Can you see it inside them?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you say anything?
Yeah, well, I'll ask them if they're okay, and if they say that they're fine, I'll kind of like keep a little distance and then try to check up on them a little later just to see if they do want to talk or something.
That's really brave of you, and it's very important because I think, people find it hard to reach out to their friends when they're struggling with mental health because they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But even just to ask people how they're doing is so important, or, to send them a text or something.
Yeah.
So I know they probably appreciate that. Do you see that there are, now that mental health is being talked about more, do you think it's helping? Do you think it helps the sports and people?
I think it does, yeah. I think it, like, because for me, like, I kind of feel like athletes, like, they feel like they have to have it all together. Like, they're kind of seen that way, like, we're D1 athletes, like, everyone kind of puts us on this, like, pedestal where, like, okay, like, everything's fine, they have it easy, like, that sort of thing. So I think everyone, like, kind of tried to hide it at first to make it seem like they did have it all together. But I think it's kind of allowed, like, more people to talk about, like, be open with, like, going to see a psychologist or, like, talk with friends about it. So I think it's been good.
It's great, trying to normalize it, which is what we're trying to do here, to also make it to where people view their mental health like they do their physical health. We have to work out our bodies and we have to work out our minds.
Yeah.
It's really not any different. Going back to you talking about people putting you on a pedestal, that's the way I thought of athletes my whole life, is that they must have it all together.
Yeah.
Because what you do for people who, like me, who has never been an athlete, it seems so out of this world almost, you know?
Yeah.
It's like something so attainable, like the schedules and the practice, and then, you know, being so rough and getting concussions and, you know, it does. In my mind, I thought, oh, they're like superheroes. Nothing's ever wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've really started, I think it was about 5 years ago or something. Kevin Love, he's a basketball player, and he was the first athlete I heard say, I used to get anxiety so bad I'd walk off the basketball court. And I couldn't believe it. And since then, I feel like people have slowly started opening up, and it's just been great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Instagram, you know, you put that, you know, you struggle with anxiety and you're vocal about it. Is that hard for you to do?
It definitely is. Yeah. It's uncomfortable. I'll say that. I've gotten more comfortable with it because I know that there's like younger kids like going through the same thing I've gone through, and I don't want them to like also feel like they have to like try to tuck it down like I kind of tried to do. So
Do you still find that sometimes you tuck it down?
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what do you do to, okay, well, one question is, when you tuck it down, does it get worse?
Yeah, it gets like very bad until it just all like comes out. Just one practice, I'll just get like, I don't know, something will happen. I'll just kind of like freak out on myself, like, but it'll be like all intrusive, but just like the thoughts are just racing and just kind of keeps boiling up.
Is there a way that you've learned to try and not stuff it down now that you kind of know that?
Yeah, I've definitely like pushed myself or like forced myself to like be open with friends or family. Like when they do ask me how I'm doing, like tell the truth about it instead of being like, oh, I'm good or whatever.
Yeah, mine was always fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is, you know, like you were saying, people putting you guys up on a pedestal. I hope that we can, you know, teach people that you are human just like us. And that you have these amazing qualities and are able to play these sports, but that, you know, you do go through the same struggles, and the intensity of it all can get overwhelming.
Yeah.
And, you know, I see just through my son's teams playing, I see even as young as 13, they all get emotional in different ways about it, you know, and I do think it's because of that drive and that care and that, you know, that wanting to win or wanting to play.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's got to be hard for those that don't play and being able to support them too. Do you see that with some of the teammates that you've known over the years that don't play?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like ones who like they think they should be playing. Like a lot of people think they should play, but it just like happens they don't play one night, or they play one night, don't play the next night, play one night, don't play the next night. That kind of, it takes its toll.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. What are you majoring in?
Finance.
Finance. Okay. What got you into that?
I always like working with like just money and numbers, so that's kind of like the way I went, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. Do you intend to take your career on to the NBA?
I want to play professionally somewhere if I get the chance. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you keep yourself mentally going for something like that? Because you're a junior, so I bet you're already prepping for what's going to happen next year, and then you graduate.
Yeah. I think just like always just like taking a step back and like understanding like how lucky I am and how blessed I am to be doing this. Because I mean, not many people get the chance to play college basketball or Division I college basketball either. So I mean, just like understand that like although it's like such a grind and like stressful thing, it's also like a big blessing.
Yeah, you've mentioned your faith a couple of times. Is that something that helps you with your mental health?
Yeah, it's definitely like the biggest thing for me whenever dealing with my mental health is turning to my faith.
And is that through prayer or going to church or both? Or
Yeah, so it's mainly going to church and prayer, and then I do like devotionals. I try to get one every day, just like like 20 or 30 minutes just reading some scripture, writing down like what it's about, and then just kind of like spend some quiet time thinking about it.
Yeah. So along, for those who don't maybe have faith or they don't use that to support their mental health, are there other things that you recommend that to our viewers that they could do to support their mental health?
Yeah, so I also do like quiet times. For me, my quiet times like going on walks. I love going on walks. So I'll just go on a walk and kind of just like get away from everything, like clear my mind, listen to some music. For me, I listen to like either like faith music or like just like calm, relaxing music to kind of like calm me down a little bit. So I do that, and then like some breathing exercises. I have an app that I use, and then it like kind of just walks me through some breathing stuff.
What's the app?
Breath work.
Okay. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So you notice a drastic difference whenever you're feeling anxiety and you go and you take a walk and you start doing breathing exercises?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every morning I start off breathing and meditating. And it's taken me a long time to be that consistent now, but
Right.
now it's just like, you got to plug in the vacuum cleaner for it to work. So I'm like, I gotta plug in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all really good tips and resources and to get, just to help get us out of our minds. And can you give us an insight if there is a game or there is a day where it seems so off? Can you kind of give us a visual of what that looks like, of what your high anxiety looks like?
Yeah. So you're asking like what I do for it, or just like?
No, would you mind sharing it with us, like what it looks like? Do you get angry, or do you, do you have to leave the game, or what does that look like for you?
For me, I kind of just shut down. Like I'll be super quiet. Like won't want to talk to anybody. Like that's the first part of it, and then like I'll kind of just like keep pushing down, and then something will happen, and I'll just get super mad, and then just like not really mad at someone else, but kind of more so just myself for like something that happened, and then it'll kind of just like boil up until I'm just like super mad. Yeah.
But your super mad doesn't look like I'm storming off the corridor. No. Yeah, if you could talk to maybe some of our younger viewers as well, and to give them just maybe some hope about as they're going through the next few years with injuries, do you have any kind of words of wisdom to support them in their mental health during this time?
I think just like trying to like focus less on yourself and what you're going through, and focus more on just like positives that come out of stuff. So for me, like I always tended to focus on the negative with those injuries. I'd be like, oh, I'm missing time to get recruited, like I'm missing time to get better, like all that stuff. And then after like my second foot break, I kind of sat down and talked to my parents a little bit, and they kind of told me just to focus on like the good that has come out of the injuries, or like the good that has come out of the hard times. And then because like even though like a lot of bad stuff goes on, there's always like at least one or two small good things that are happening, no matter how small like they are. There's always some positive to be found, which is what I've kind of learned throughout the years of just injuries and stress and all that stuff.
Yeah, find gratitude in it, which it's hard to do in the moment, but I think sometimes it's easier after the fact. You can see like maybe it was okay that I had to go through that. No, that's really solid, very solid advice. And then for us parents, is there anything that you could say to help us understand you more when you're going through that, or how can we support you?
I think just being there to listen, really. My parents did a great job of just like they would push me, but they would also let me know like, if you don't want to do this, it's okay. Like if you want to do something else, like it's okay. Like you don't have to play basketball, you don't have to play sports. Like we'll love you even if you mess up. And that was kind of huge for me, like because I already had so much pressure on myself, and then just like from other coaches, teammates, all that stuff. And they didn't like add to that pressure. They kind of like relieved it by just always letting me talk to them, and then just like supporting me no matter what happened. So
yeah, that's another great thing is that you're saying, is just to listen and be supportive
yeah.
in whatever situation is going on. Yeah, so there is so much stigma still around mental health, and it is being talked about as we discussed earlier. How do you view people getting help, and do you recommend that?
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Personally, I go to a sports psychologist, and it really helps me just like, she'll help me just like with practices to kind of like relieve the stress of sports and even life too. So she'll walk me through different ways to do that.
Mm.
And I mean, I resisted it at first too. I was kind of like, I don't need this. Like, I'm fine. I'll get through it. Whatever. Like, I don't need that. I want to talk to somebody about it. But then once I opened up to it and kind of like went through with it, I really saw a change in like development in my life.
Oh, wow, really? What made you finally make the move to go?
Because I was just beating up myself up so much. I wasn't myself for like a couple weeks, like just kind of like really down, like quiet, like not mean, but just kind of like pushing people away sort of thing. And I kind of realized like nothing's gonna get better if I like just keep trying to myself. Like I have to change something. So
It's very insightful, and I think you hit a really great point because, we all may have a day or two where we don't feel like ourselves. But then if it starts to linger into
Yeah.
third day, fourth day, fifth day, 2 weeks, maybe it's okay to say, I need to talk about this with someone.
yeah.
Yeah. And that person, like for you as a sports psychologist, kind of helped give you a different perspective on how to view this
Yeah.
situation. Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of your teammates too are open to seeing sports psychologists, or is it something y'all have had to grow into?
I think it's definitely, our coaches do a great job of like helping us understand the importance of just like, they always say like if you're not mental or emotionally like well, you're not going to be like good on the court. So they've kind of like we've had a team meeting with a sports psychologist before and just kind of all talked together, and a lot of people got her card after it. So yeah, I think the whole team's pretty open to it.
That's great, and it's good to talk about it as a group too, because you don't feel so alone
Yeah.
in the journey. Yeah. Do you see that as Texas State? Do y'all talk about it here? Do you hear that people, just other kids on campus, and are there classes around it?
I definitely see there's like a lot of different signs and stuff about it. Like I think there's a couple organizations like around it, like just kind of that try to focus on like ways to help mental health just on campus and like provide a support system sort of thing. So,
Yeah, that's great, and a very good point that you made, because if you're not a part of a team and you don't have a sports psychologist or somebody you can go to, there's all these organizations that help, and I know at colleges they have school counselors and things, so if you can't afford it, or if it's not a part of a team that you're with, there's other avenues where you can go and seek help.
yeah.
Yeah, and it seems, to be really helpful from what you said. It's been really helpful in my life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving forward, and as people are opening up, and hopefully we are breaking the stigma a little more, what are some ways that you feel we can keep breaking that stigma? Do we keep talking about it? Are there other things you recommend?
I think just like keep talking about it, and just like letting people know that they're like, if you have to go, like if you're asking for help, you're not messed up. Like everyone goes through something. Like you're not alone in what you're going through, and also like you're not weak for going to ask somebody for help, or like telling a friend how you really feel. So
Yes, you're not weak. That's such a good point. I do think sometimes we can feel like we're weak, or there's something wrong with us, or there's shame around it, and there's no shame around it. We do all go through something in some way, and maybe it's a different part of our lives. But then the more we open up about it and share it, it actually makes it easier for other people to go and say, wait, if they went and got help, maybe I can too. Yeah. Nate, I just want to thank you so much for coming on here and being so honest and open about going to therapy. And I just would love to go over once again your resources, and that is go outside and take walks, breathe, go and see somebody if it gets to a couple weeks where you're not feeling that great. Your faith, in your community.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just brilliant. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to thank you for joining us at Speak as One, and I want to thank Nate Martin for being here with us and telling us about his journey with mental health and the resources he uses. And as always, you can check out his story on our YouTube channel, Speak as One, or on our website, which is Speak as One as well. And once again, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week.